My father spent all of his money on my sister, and now he wants my house because she dropped out of college. I had to work many jobs to pay for education. Before we get into what is occurring on right now, I-30F should provide some fundamental facts. My 58-year-old father has always loved my 26-year-old sister Eva more than any other child, though he tried to hide it when he was younger. When our mother died when Eva was 8 and I was 12, the bias became more obvious. I guess Dad always had a different perspective of Eva because she reminded him of our mother. As a youngster, everything I did was evaluated on how well it suited Eva's skills. My father might say it's important for me to become straight, but consider what Eva could achieve with her abilities. He would argue that if I had won a competition, Eva would have won it too. The emphasis was always on Eva's fabricated successes rather than my genuine ones. I became accustomed to this scenario and concentrated on my academics. That one day my father would be proud of how well I performed in school. After graduating from high school with a 4.0 GPA, I was admitted to many well-known institutions, including my dream school. I was overjoyed because I finally felt that all my hard work had paid off. At that time, everything fell apart. I was seated at our kitchen table, acceptance letters all around me, when my father dropped the news. Dad said that he had been saving for college, even though he could only send one of us to college. He selected Eva since she was more motivated and wanted to study abroad, thus she was the one. I attempted to speak reason into him. I gave him my grants, which will assist fund some of my education. I vowed to work part-time to help pay for school. I even recommended that we both attend public schools rather than pricey private ones. But he rejected all proposals. He was certain that Eva would study in London. Eva has always dreamed of studying abroad, he told her. You're more practical, you can work here while also attending community college. Eva needs this opportunity more than you do. When I started crying, he advised me to calm down and focus on what was best for the family. It crushed my heart. Even though I worked hard and did everything correctly, it didn't matter. My mom's sister, my aunt, was upset when she heard about it and offered to assist, but she was also struggling financially due to a recent divorce. I loved her emotional support, but she couldn't pay for my education. I was determined to complete school. I attended community college evening programs and worked full-time at a local grocery shop. When I worked as a waitress on weekends, I would study throughout my lunch breaks. I occasionally fell asleep during my studies because I was so fatigued, but I kept going. At the time, my father was really concerned about Eva's future. He paid for tutors, pricey SAT prep seminars, and even sent her to international summer camps to prepare her for London. I was attempting to manage job and school while surviving on energy drinks and ramen noodles. It took me 6 years to complete my computer science degree. I gradually collected points by taking lessons whenever I could afford them. Meanwhile, my father was too busy preparing for her big trip to London to attend any of my classes or the graduation ceremony. My father spent nearly all of his money to send Eva to school when she reached 18. He took out loans, cashed out his retirement assets, and refinanced his home. Everyone told him he wasn't being responsible with his money, but he didn't listen. He believed that Eva was exceptional and should receive the greatest education available. After college, I concentrated on my career and advanced in the AITA area. After living modestly and accumulating a lot of money, I eventually purchased my own home last year. Even though it is not a nice house, I paid a lot of money for it, and am now the owner. I was doing all of this as my father boasted to everyone about how well his younger daughter was doing in school in London. Eva showed up at our father's house unexpectedly last month. She stated that she needed time to better understand herself and had to drop out of college due to mental health difficulties. But I discovered the truth when I read her former roommate's texts and checked through her social media. Eva had been absent all of the time, gotten into trouble, and failed all 4 years of school. She was asked to quit school due to her poor academics and inappropriate behavior at student gatherings. My dad and Eva unexpectedly came up at my place yesterday. They originally asked whether Eva could live with me because I had additional space. My father suggested that I give Eva my house since she needed stability to get better, but I declined. He stated, "I'm doing well at my job, so it wouldn't be hard for me to buy another house. Eva requires assistance in getting back on her feet." I couldn't believe what I heard. The father who refused to help me with education now wanted me to donate my house to his golden kid, who had squandered hundreds of thousands of pounds on London parties. He became upset when I laughed aloud. I was being selfish, he said. It was my responsibility, as the older sister, to support Eva. Eva simply stood there weeping, telling her family how difficult her life has been and how much they need to assist her. I told both of them how difficult college was for me when my father wasn't there to help. I made it obvious that Eva was solely responsible for her current circumstance. Then my father remarked aloud that my mother would have appreciated it if I assisted my sister. I lost it at that moment. Both of them were warned to leave my house and never return. When I informed my father that he couldn't control me using my mom's memories, I pointed out that he had failed to provide his daughters with the equal support they desired. I've had several calls and texts from them since then. My father invited our entire family to help them, therefore the majority of them are helping, stating I should assist my sister since family comes first. My aunt is the only one who understands and approves with my choice. Even though I have blocked their lines, they continue to try to contact me through other family members. I'm not going to quit up, but it gets tiresome when my family constantly makes me feel terrible. Some of them claim I'm getting back at Eva. I'm upset over the past. These folks don't realize that this isn't about getting even, it's about refusing to condone their disrespectful attitude. I understand that I am not incorrect. Nonetheless, I'm getting weary of my family messing with my emotions. But I am not going to let EVA come in or give up my home. I worked too hard for what I have, and I can't just give it to someone who has never worked for anything. 1. A lot has transpired in the 2 weeks since my previous post, and it isn't good. Things are far worse than I expected. I was outraged when I discovered that my father had actually talked to a number of attorneys about forcing me to relinquish EVA, my residence. This was reported to me by my cousin, who works for one of the law companies he visited. According to my cousin, my father spent 2 days visiting several legal companies in order to locate someone who might assist him in looking out for the best interests of his younger daughter. According to sources, he sought to argue that, as our father, he had the right to decide how to divide his children's belongings. All of his lawyers advised him that his allegation was ridiculous and could not be supported by the evidence. However, I'm sick to my stomach since he even attempted this, and spent days seeking for methods to reclaim my house from me. My aunt, my mother's sister, has supported me throughout this ordeal. She decided to check into it more after hearing about my father's case. Journeys, and what she discovered stunned her. It turns out that my father took out a mortgage on his property to pay for EVA to attend school in London. To maintain Eva's opulent lifestyle overseas, he did more than simply spend his own money. He maxed out his credit cards, took out many loans, and even stole from family members. He has a lot of debt right now. The majority of his retirement income goes into his monthly mortgage payments, and credit card firms phone him to remind him to make payments. As a result, they are quite ready to seize control of my residence. To get out of their financial situation, they need something they can sell or borrow from. Therefore, they're not merely searching for a place for EVA to reside. But Eva has been quite busy. Everyone in our family knows she has been lying about me. It's ridiculous for her to claim that I promised her half of my house years ago. I am believed to have promised her, as sisters do, that I would preserve half of the property for her. She even claims I made this vow in front of other family members during her farewell party. This is not at all correct. First, I was working 2 jobs at the time, so I wasn't even able to attend her departure party. Second, I hadn't purchased the house yet since I was still saving money for it. However, certain family members have. They caught on to the lie and have been contacting me continuously, putting pressure on me to uphold my word. Uncle, my father's brother, even sent me a long email informing me that I was undermining family trust and that sisterly pledges were sacred. Eva's reaction when I eventually told her she was lying about this revealed how spoiled she had gotten. She told him that she had maintained her pledge while weeping, but instead of apologizing, she attempted to justify what she'd done. I should want to assist her regardless, she explained, since I am her sister and I am fine. She claimed sisters should share everything, so I did, although saying I wouldn't. This situation became much worse when my father chose to manage things himself. He unexpectedly showed up at my job yesterday. He stormed into our office building, informed the receptionist that he needed to see his daughter immediately now, away, and refused to go when she urged him to wait. As soon as I came into the corridor, I could hear him ranting about family duty and how I was ruining Eva's future. Everybody in my workplace could hear everything. He was implying that I am cold-hearted, that my mother would be embarrassed of me, and that I desire EVA. When the cops had to take him away, he was still complaining about how unappreciative I am. I was embarrassed by what had transpired, but my supervisor was kind. It just took a few minutes for my father to destroy the professional image I had worked so hard to establish. Following what occurred at work, I knew I needed legal assistance. The lawyer I hired discovered something weird. My father and I had been researching squatters' rights and legislation against unfair ownership. They even planned to move in while I was at work and not leave. Things they believed they might use as proof of some sort of property rights. My lawyer immediately sent cease and desist letters to both of them. I've also installed a comprehensive security system around my house, including cameras at each door. I replaced all of my locks to make them more secure, even though they never had keys. I've also informed all of my neighbors about the situation and urged them to contact the police if they spot EVA or my father attempting to enter my home. All of this has been quite taxing on my emotions. I keep thinking about my father. I've worked so hard for this, and now the father who was meant to look after and protect both of his daughters equally is after it all. Every time I think about how he's prepared to wreck my financially to support Eva's hazardous behavior, I become angry and sad. Some family members are still attempting to resolve issues by recommending family treatment or settlement. But how can I even think about making things right while they're attempting to seize my house? How can I trust someone who will lie, deceive, and maybe even break the law to get their way? Legal and mental self-defense are the most essential things for me right now. They may only contact me through my lawyer, and I have blacklisted them from all routes. The security cameras make me feel like I live in a castle, but I can sleep better knowing they can't get in and claim their squatter rights. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, everything fell apart. When my aunt discovered anything, the entire scenario shifted. Remember how EVA spent a few weeks with my aunt before leaving for London? Last weekend, my aunt was cleaning up her guest room and discovered Eva's old laptop buried away in the back of a closet. Eva must have forgotten about it when she departed for London. My aunt plugged in the laptop to test whether it still functioned, but she didn't realize it was switched on. What she discovered made her feel nauseous. Eva had been planning this entire affair since the beginning, as evidenced by hundreds of emails, notes, and discussions. This was not an instance of a student having too much fun while failing school. It was a deliberate strategy. We discovered chat logs from her senior year of high school, when she boasted to her pals about her brilliant idea. She told us how she intended to convince our father to relocate her to London so she could enjoy a luxury life for a few years before returning home when her money ran out. She'd even considered how she may use the family against them later. The SMS texts were dreadful. She laughed about how simple it was to manipulate our father and called him an idiot for believing her phony desire to learn. She kept careful logs each when she utilized emotional triggers on him, bringing up her mother, weeping about feeling alone, and discussing her objectives for school. Everything was planned and orchestrated. The most distressing part, however, was what she wrote about me. During several of our chats, she made fun of my college troubles. She said that only losers had to work while in school, and that I was miserable since I had so many jobs. She assured her pals that she would never have to work as hard because she had her father absolutely captivated, to demonstrate that she had also been taking care of matters at home. She commented on how hilarious it was since I had considered it amusing before she returned. She spoke with her pals how to best persuade me to give her my house, and she looked into methods to obtain property from family members. She was well aware of what she was doing when she returned with the narrative regarding mental health issues. The most of the harsh texts were about our mother. EVA said that she had discovered that showing grief and saying things our mother would have appreciated was the quickest method to get our father to do what she wanted. She was proud of her ability to manipulate our father and me by recalling Mom's recollections. She referred to it as her secret weapon. There were copies of everything my aunt had given me in case I needed legal assistance. I was shivering with rage as I read it all. Even if all of my suspicions about EVA had been confirmed correct, seeing her actual nature so clearly written down was still upsetting. I made up my decision to show our father everything. I thought that this must be the proof he needed to realize EVA for who she truly is. When I visited his home, my aunt assisted me in getting there. I assumed he couldn't dispute such obvious proof, so I gave him some of the worst texts. He became enraged with me instead of Eva. He said I fabricated all of the proof because I was envious of EVA. When I showed him the genuine iPad, he assumed I had fabricated the texts or hacked it. He said I was attempting to harm Eva's reputation because I couldn't bear that she was his favorite child. Eva witnessed this argument, and what she said next revealed a much. Rather of rejecting the texts, she broke. She broke down in tears and explained that she only wrote them because her friends urged her to. She told me I was wrong for exploiting past texts to hurt her, and she claimed she didn't mean anything. In fact, my father consoled her while glaring at me. He went on to say, I should be ashamed of myself because I tried to kick Eva while she was on the ground when my aunt tried to defend me by saying she had discovered the laptop. He claimed that my aunt and I were conspiring to harm EVA. I didn't feel anything when I left their place. He was looking for evidence that Eva was lying. But rather than accepting that his ideal child had been deceiving him for years, he opted to assume I made it up. Aunt advises me to be happy since I know he will never understand why I feel this way. My lawyer now possesses copies of everything, just in case they do something different. I don't care what happens next. The final blow came when my father decided that instead of trusting Eva's falsehoods, I would fabricate evidence. I've told him all I wanted to say. I'm done with both of them. Update 3: It has been 6 months since the laptop incident, and I'm now ready to discuss what happened. There have been numerous positive developments in my life. I stopped communicating to EVA and my father 6 months ago, and these 6 months have It has been the calmest period of my life. That's precisely what I expected after hearing my aunt describe their scenario. My father had to sell his home because he was unable to make the mortgage payments. The sale did not even come close to covering his obligations from Eva's trip to London. My aunt claims they are having difficulty making ends meet since they rent a modest 2-bedroom flat in a less popular section of town. Eva is still without a job. It appears that she has been attending job interviews, but she will not accept any position that she believes is below her ability level. I think it amusing that someone without a degree would be choosy about their employment. When they asked for proof of graduation, she planned to gain multiple jobs by pretending she had a degree from London. It did not work out. The way the family operates has evolved in an unusual way. When my father started asking for money, the majority of my family first agreed with him. Several family members learned of his need for short-term assistance to get Eva back on her feet. It took a few unpaid debts before the family stopped caring. When Eva arrived up unexpectedly and attempted to network with folks present about job vacancies, my cousin's wedding last month became a great event. She made a huge show about it, telling everyone how her envious sister had wrecked her life. When my father had to drag her out, she was in tears about how unjust everything was. That encounter altered the family's perception of the true situation. Some family members are still urging me to aid them. Last week, my uncle called and asked if I could help them pay their rent by lending them money. I banned his phone number. Another aunt suggested that I assist Eva acquire a position at my firm. I told her no, explaining that recommending someone who lied about their education would not harm my professional standing. I have a new phone number and reside in a different section of town. My aunt and 2 cousins are the only ones I speak with. They have shown to be trustworthy and will not divulge my personal information. When my family discovered that my father was considering whether he had any parental rights to my belongings, my lawyer assisted me in putting further legal safeguards in place. He cannot take chances, but I will. The house they so desperately wanted? I created a home office and renovated the whole place. I sometimes wonder how Eva intended to live here. It helps me appreciate all I've worked for even more. I've also been teaching young people about technology as they prepare for their jobs. You feel terrific when you support folks who genuinely desire to achieve their goals. My father wrote to my work address last month since it was the only one he still had. There were several guilt trips about family responsibilities and how he would never understand why I abandoned them. There was no response, so I ripped it to bits. It's enough for me to attempt to explain myself to individuals who did not want to hear it. The calm I've discovered since cutting them off has made all the family arguments worthwhile. Yes, the outcome makes me sad at times, but I remind myself that I picked my own route and they selected theirs. I don't want nasty family members to take all I've fought so hard for. Some people may believe that not touching someone is cruel, but I've discovered that there are instances when it's the greatest thing to do. I'm content with my decision and no longer upset. Living my life as I wish has made me happier than ever, and my home has become my safe haven.